model that we have with the youth guys where it's like, dude, I want you to be selfish in the sense of like wanting to be on the field
Mhm.
and wanting to play. I mean, if you don't have that drive to do that, you're never going to be successful, but you do need to be a good teammate and you do need to find a way to help the team and all that kind of stuff. And like, just seems like we, sometimes maybe, especially as catchers, we maybe, put too much emphasis on the like, be the team guy, be the everything, because at the end of the day, like we were talking about, like we got to hit, and like that's an individual battle. Like that's a like you versus them. We got to like build some confidence. So it's like balancing both of those. Obviously, you're at the highest level. Like you're trying to secure a job. You found a great niche, to do that and be successful. But there is a balance of like if you still work your butt off and have confidence that you can play, but be a good teammate and do all those things, it's 100%, going to work in your favor if you can perform when you get the opportunity. And I think there's just too much of the like it's just one or the other. It's like this guy's a great team player and this guy's selfish. It's like, well, the reality is I need a little bit of both out of everybody, right?
100%. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier on is looking at your situation. What's the goal? And most of the time when I talk to kids, parents, or even professionals, they don't have a true goal with the reality behind it. And then being able to line up a plan that goes somewhere. But then take it one step further. Are you willing to actually put in the work it's going to take to get to that? So sometimes that is being a guy that catches every bullpen. You're not going to play this year. Sorry. You're not good enough. Well, that's okay. That means you have a lot more time to break down your swing. You have a lot more time in the cage. You have a lot more time with communication with your pitchers and your coaching staff and being able to really figure out who you are, who you want to be, and then maybe even finding something that can start to mold your identity at the plate, behind the plate, and with those relationships with the pitchers. There's an advantage to every situation, good or bad, if you look for that advantage. And I think so often our generation that we're working with now doesn't look at the advantage that they have right in front of them. You know, I'll never forget my freshman year. I crushed school. Well, I look back at it. I didn't play well. It's the first time I ever failed in college. And there's something really cool that happened for me there is I realized how good I could be at school, how efficient I could be, but I also took a ton of hours. So my junior year, I was able to really cut back and focus more on ball, be an All-American, and get drafted. There's an advantage there if you're willing to do it. I did it because I was pissed off and it worked out to my favor, but I always tell kids, look for the advantage that you don't see. There's an advantage in this very disadvantaged situation that you don't see. Use it to your advantage, and I promise, whether you play ball or not, it'll give you something in the long run that you'll be like, dang, that was right. I'm really glad I did that. I didn't waste my time sitting and complaining and whining and all these things you can do, play the victim instead. Take ownership of it, take responsibility and run. Because if you're running, there's way more people staying back, not taking ownership, not taking responsibility, and that'll give you an edge down the line that they don't have, period. And that's where I think we really should take our focus when we're playing or a parent or whatever have you. We focus on what we can do. We control the little things that we can control, not what we can't. Because we can't decide who the coach likes or who he gave a scholarship to or anything. All we can focus on is the day in, day out task to get better, making that plan, and are we executing, having good self-evaluation, taking ownership. If we don't, then it's our own fault. And we can look back and say, I messed up. And that's one thing I tell every kid I mentor. Your career is your career. That's where the selfishness, in my opinion, comes in. Do not ever make an excuse that this coach or that parent or this parent, there's somebody with a way worse situation that had way more success than you could ever imagine, that came through just turmoil after turmoil to get to the top of what they were trying to do because they had focus, they had ownership, and they took responsibility for everything, even though it wasn't their problem. And that's what you have to do.
And so we tell the kids, I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, if your goal is to play in the big leagues, understand you're 15 years old and you're going to school for 6 hours a day and you're practicing for 2 hours a day. And there's a kid right now in the Dominican that's going to school for 2 hours a day and practicing for 6 hours a day, right? And it's like
going to school 2 minutes a day.
yeah, whatever it is, right? But it's like that's the idea that like, you got to understand the situation and who you're competing with, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not the like, stop your life and only work. Like there's a huge, piece of, the social aspect. There's a huge piece of multi-sport athletes. Like there's a huge piece to all of that. But at the end of the day, it's just understanding your situation and realizing that like you're you're so blessed and gifted to do what you do and work. Like we can all find that from the, greatest situations to the worst. We can always find those. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, like
Truth.
it's like you got to get there. You got to be the guy, like I don't know why I'm not playing, because you're not as good as the guy playing. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
why?
saying,
Why? Ask why. Like that.
yeah.
That's a great example. Like you're not playing. Why? Like
Mhm.
be the coach and ask yourself why are you not playing. If you can't answer those questions, go ask someone else.
Mhm.
Get some feedback, especially if you can get it objectively. Like someone that has nothing to gain, nothing to lose. That's something that, going back to the GM stuff, is a problem with our game today. And that's why I love the college game. And if I did coach, I'd probably go into college, because we have so many people willing to give feedback that is comfortable. And the best feedback is never comfortable. Ever, ever,
Mhm.
ever. And that's something that I think the game needs to shift on really fast. And it's because people have jobs. And I get that side of it too. Like I understand that if you are underneath someone, you don't want to tell them, hey, this is stupid. Let me show you why.
Mhm.
But if you have an answer, I've learned this in life and in business and in sports. If you have a reason, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think people respect you. But if you're like, oh, my hitting coach told me to do that, don't say that. Don't ever say that.
So
No,
so spot on, dude.
explain why you're doing it, because you're paying that dude and he wants you to need him. So why are you doing it? What is it accomplishing? And my favorite thing is, what is the ball telling you? Because the ball won't lie to you. Everybody else will. This thing won't lie to you. And
Mhm.
I think that's the greatest objective feedback you can get on a baseball field. If you throw an absolute missile down to second base with true spin and it's just pretty and the guy makes a pretty tag and he's safe, everything you did was just right. Right? The ball just told you you're right.
Mhm.
Don't let anything else lie to you. Oh, you weren't fast enough. That was a 2-0-0. Who cares? Everything else was
Mhm.
perfect.
Yep.
So I think, like what you said, like being able to ask the tough questions is really important. I don't think kids want to. I think they'll just change summer teams most of the time.